Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about debates on the internet. Now I like to go on to various Reddit forums or Facebook threads recently and like stuff like that and just see the dumb stuff that people put out there into the world and just kind of try and counteract it. I'm not doing it to sort of instill my beliefs onto them or to try and convert them over to what I'm thinking, that kind of thing. I'm kind of just doing it for a bit of entertainment, but it's the same sort of entertainment as like watching like dumb reality TV or something like that, where it's not actually engaging. It's just kind of, it gives you the quick dopamine rush without any kind of holistic reason behind it for actually putting you in that situation where you're actually kind of getting something out of what you're doing. So it's a nice little bit of entertainment, but it's not particularly fulfilling. If anything, it just makes you a little bit annoyed and agitated because it makes you realize that there's such terrible people out there with such terrible views. I think the one I remember that's coming to mind now is I was on Reddit maybe a year ago or something like that, and I went on this thread that this guy put out, basically talking about how he was giving up on women, right? And whenever you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, let's have a bit of fun with this. Let's see what this guy's saying. How are women the lower class this time? And he basically was trying to make this point that he should be able to have as many women as he wants, but at the same time, those women should only be allowed to have him. So it's like this one-sided monogamy, and then the other half gets to be polygamous. So the man gets to sleep with whoever he wants, right? And the woman can't say anything, but the woman can't sleep with whoever she wants, or he'll go mental. So I kind of pointed out the hypocrisy there and how that's not really fair. And he sort of went on this tangent about, men are the key and then women are the lock. And, you wouldn't want a lock that can be opened by any key. And it's like, you've just made this metaphor to make your point rather than the other way around, where the metaphor helps make your point. You've based your point around this metaphor of the lock and the key, which the only reason you've gone for lock and key is because a lock goes into a key. And it's like, yeah, that's true. But also, men aren't fucking keys, women aren't locks, we're not doors, we're human beings. And I had a bit of fun with him, and I tried to take him semi-seriously. Not because I took him seriously, but because I could see that there was clearly some kind of mental instability behind him. And I didn't want to just make fun of him just based on his beliefs, even though internally I was laughing at the things he was saying. And that was where I was getting my entertainment from. But a part of me was trying to sort of get through to him a little bit. And now that I've gone onto Facebook again, it's so much worse. At least that guy, I could tell that he was really depressed with the world and he'd become quite nihilistic in the base sense, the basic sense of just, there's no point in anything, not the actual philosophy of nihilism. He just didn't care about the world and he thought the world didn't care about him. So, I thought I'd take him a little bit seriously, but the stuff on Facebook, Jesus Christ, I get to the point where I don't bother taking it seriously. I just comment really straight to the point, nah, you're wrong, right? And I have a bit of fun with it, and I just make little jokes and stuff like that. And is that really helping? Is that adding to the discourse? Is that making things better? I don't really think it is. I mean, all I'm doing is giving engagement to these disinformation campaigns, these Facebook pages that you notice them. For instance, there's these ones in Britain which are like, oh, Britain was so much better way back when. And it's like, sure, okay, you want to post your nostalgic little pictures of Britain in the 1960s and 70s? Cool, that's like a fun little niche where people can go, oh, I remember that and that kind of stuff, right? That's fine. I don't have a problem with that inherently. But it's when you go on the little page and you see that it changed its name from some random thing from Mexico, and then you see that it changed its name then from something in Russia and the servers are based out of Moscow, and it's just like, okay, this is a Russian disinformation campaign, all right, and I'm just feeding into it and giving it exactly what it wants, because what it wants is to create outrage, and it wants people like me to morally grandstand over the bots that are putting out all this garbage. And I bet at least 50% of the things that I respond to are just machines that are just algorithmically inclined to just post whatever is going to garner the most amount of attraction as possible. And it's not a good thing that I'm doing. I'm not helping the world in any real way by responding to these things. I've certainly never changed anyone's mind. I've certainly not made anyone, think more about the world that they live in or anything like that. And they haven't done the same to me. We're not having any kind of like exchange of ideas here with respect behind it. We're taking the piss out of one another, and we're seeing straight past one another's issues, and because their issues come from this totally different world where like I just don't even recognize the stuff on there. It's just like, the LGBT are coming to like, turn all your kids gay by like indoctrinating them into like child pedophiles or something like that, and it's just, none of it is based in any kind of reality, so I can't really add to it. All I can do is just have a laugh at it. And then I'm sure there's someone in the comments here that's just seen that and gone, oh, he's part of the woke agenda or whatever. And I don't mean to get into that kind of thing. I'm not interested in joining this culture or this. I'm just saying from my perspective, my experience of having these little debates on the internet, because I'm sure loads of you like to have little debates on the internet. You like to have a bit of fun just typing out some dumb stuff, and it maybe gets you to research a little thing because someone makes a really stupid point, so you kind of Google it to see what's going on there, and you end up reading some random paper about some subject that you only partially care about. But it's semi-learning. It's maybe learning just to prove yourself right, but it's still learning all the same. And so in a way that is kind of fun. But I think we need a space to have these debates where we can tell that the other person is real and they're coming from a place of goodwill and good faith, and we can exchange ideas in a fair sort of way where we can acknowledge one another's grievances whilst pointing out flaws in their arguments. Because like, I'm not a perfect individual. My arguments are often flawed. I remember I was at the bank about 2 weeks ago, right? And I was in the queue and I was a little bit tired. And I went up there and I said, can I take some money from this bank account and put it into this bank account? She said, and it was like a different bank account. And so she sort of said, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. And then I got and sat down and I realized I was totally in the wrong because I'd said the things in the wrong order. And she was confused and I was getting annoyed at her because I was wrong and she was confused by what I was saying. And so I just kept trying to reiterate what I was saying, and I was getting really like quite agitated. And I thought that was quite a good metaphor for what basically happens with all this, debating on the internet. Someone is wrong, but they have convinced themselves that they're right. And whenever someone tries to point out that they're wrong, that is taken as an attack. And so you end up rooting yourself deeper and deeper into the issue. And it was only when I really sat down and thought about it, I was like, shit, I was completely in the wrong. And I really should have gone up to her and said, I'm really sorry, but there was a big queue and I thought, I'm not queuing for 20 minutes just to apologise to her. So I left and I felt quite bad because I'd made her day slightly worse. I'm now another person that she'll probably tell as a story to like her boyfriend or whatever, just going, oh, these fucking people that come to my work, arseholes, and I'll be one of those little stories. This really tall guy came in and he just said, I want to put this into this, and it's like, we can't do that. And he just kept getting annoyed at me. And it's like, yeah, I was wrong. I was completely and utterly wrong in that situation. And I think there's a way that we need to sort of come together and realise that we're not always correct on everything, and to find some language that we can use to respectfully point out that someone else is wrong, so that person can feel comfortable admitting that they're wrong, because it's part of human nature. We want to be correct, we want to be right, because being right tends to mean that we can progress, and we want to progress. Why do we want to progress? Because we want to get to the things we want to achieve. And then in the long run, that tends to be stuff like getting a house and getting a family and all that kind of stuff in the long distant future. And then to build up to that, you've got individual little goals that take you along the way, and for each of those, you need to be correct on certain topics. So it's in our nature to want to be correct on stuff. And I think we just need to find a way of allowing our language to give us phrases to admit that we're wrong in a way that doesn't delegitimize us entirely. Because like, you see someone on a video or whatever and they're wrong about an issue, and you just like, everyone piles in on them. And suddenly it's like, this person's wrong, they're a load of shit, aren't they? It's like, yeah, but I don't know what they do when they get off the camera, and maybe they're right about other stuff, like, if all anyone saw of me on the internet was me at that bank being wrong, it's not like I became a full like Karen or anything, but I was certainly in the wrong, and I certainly got a bit agitated, just because like we were hitting a brick wall with one another, and she was right and I was wrong, and I thought I was right and I thought she was wrong, and it's a immovable object meets a heavy force, or whatever the fucking saying is, and I think with debating on the internet, it's a lot of fun, but I think we need to sort of find a way of doing it in a more productive way. I remember I went and saw a couple debates live, like proper debates, because I got into like, you know, YouTube philosophy kind of stuff. I started watching Alex O'Connor, and then I started watching a few others sort of around that, and I started watching internet debates between random streamers and stuff. And like, it would be the ones where one is totally in the wrong and one is totally in the right. They were just like fun entertainment. And then I started enjoying, like, there was one that was like Hitchens versus Hitchens, and that one was quite fun. And then I watched one that was like all about the Catholic Church, and I think it had Stephen Fry doing a little bit, and you know, it was quite entertaining. And I went and signed up for this little like debate club. I didn't debate in it because I'm not very good at making my points, but I sort of sat and watched a couple of them, and it was nice to see two people that were like, they had opposite, you know, opinions on a matter, but they were able to come together and respectfully have a dialogue about it. Because, you know, if one person thinks they're totally right and the other person thinks they're totally right, just delegitimizing the other person for what they think isn't going to make them realize that they're wrong. And obviously just, you know, politely saying you're incorrect isn't going to massively do much either to someone that's, you know, fully indoctrinated into certain ideologies and stuff like that. Like, I can't just go up to a Christian and just go, sorry, God doesn't exist. And they'll go, oh, yeah, you make a good point. No, I'm not going to go to the church anymore. I'm going to become an atheist. You know, that it doesn't work like that. If you want to admit that you're wrong, it needs to come from within, not from an external pressure. And I think we need to find a way that we can make it more acceptable for people to come out and just admit that they're wrong about stuff. Because we're all wrong about stuff from time to time. None of us are perfect individuals, none of us are perfect beings, and that's fine. It's okay to be wrong about stuff. So yeah, I think that's going to be the video. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you got something out of it. And yeah, let me know your experiences of having debates on the internet. Have you ever gotten riled up because of them as well? Because that's something that happens. You end up getting riled up about stuff that doesn't affect you. And you know, that's negative energy that you don't need in your life. Negative attraction, sort of, that you don't need deep down. And I'm sure a load of you have had the debate with someone that you disagree with on the internet. So leave your experiences below, when it's maybe made you feel really bad, or maybe it's made you feel good, or maybe it's made you learn more about an issue, or maybe, you know, you realized you were wrong for an internet debate, or something like that, or you can turn someone else's opinion around, and how did you do that? Or how did they manage to get you to turn your opinion around? And leave a comment below about that kind of thing, about your previous experiences with this. And yeah, that's gonna be it from me. Hope you enjoyed it. And yeah, take care everybody. Bye-bye. Hey up everybody, my name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the circumstances of your life and how you can apply those circumstances to your creative works to create something quite interesting. Because you might, if you're anything like me, when you're in a bit of a down sort of time, when you're a little bit down, depressed or whatever, you kind of look at other creators, you look at films that are done in America, you look at YouTubers that come out of some mad country you've never heard of, and you sort of sit there and think, God, their lives are so much more interesting than me. They've actually got something to get across. Meanwhile, I don't, just living in a suburb or whatever, you know? But at the end of the day, your circumstances are unique to you, and whatever your life is interesting. I'm not necessarily saying you need to vlog your life or get your life out exactly as it is, but with what your life is, there is some nugget of creativity or story within there that you can apply to something, whether that be a film or an album or a book or a piece of art. And if you really want to create, you have something to say, you just think that it's not interesting enough to say, but it is. It's way more interesting than you think it is, and it's way more satisfying to see the results of your own creative work from the circumstances you have, rather than trying to create new circumstances. Like this shot, for instance, I think looks pretty fucking good, right? And this is just like, I'm going to see a friend right now after this video. I'm going to go see a friend. He lives down there. I don't know if you can see that building. That building there, not that big building, but that building there, he lives around there, right? So I'm gonna go see him after that. That's why, like, these few videos I've done today, I've slowly been progressing my way over there. But the fog that's kind of out at the moment, the winter dew, you know, all of this sort of stuff, I think it gives you a nice little look into whatever my life is at the moment, my little world, my community, my thing, and that's neat. right? Because you have your own little world, your own little thing, and your own little community that you can get out there into the world if you so choose, if you have something that you want to say. But just don't get yourself down in a way of like, oh, I don't have anything to say, I just live in some random suburb. Say you live in like, I don't know, Oklahoma City. I've dropped the pin on Google Maps and Street View and gone around. It looks like shit, it looks so boring there. And I sort of sat there and I was wandering around this town on Street View and I was thinking, how would I make anything interesting here? The lighting looks awful because it's a sunny, overcast day all the time. The whole place is completely flat. The buildings look boring as all hell. But you see creators over there, they're making something of it and they make that work within them. And sometimes you might see one of these boring suburbs and just see a boring suburb, or you might see this boring suburb and see something that's part of a story, because they have managed to craft a world out of their own real world, and they've managed to elevate their world from just being, you know, their little suburb in America to the location, the location of this movie or this thing, you know. Like, take the house that's in the original American Football album. It's just some random fucking house. It's got no story to it. It's not a particularly interesting house. Actually, it might have a story to it, I don't remember. But it's not a particularly interesting looking house, right? But they managed to turn it into a cultural icon within the math rock emo kind of community. And that's interesting to me. The fact that you can turn boring things into interesting things via your brain, your creativity, and your flow. So why not just get out there and start, okay? Because what your world is way more interesting than you might have any possible expectation of, right? Say you live in Greenland, right? You're one of like 56,000 people that live in Greenland. That's a very small section of the world, and you have access to it in a way that other people might not. So why not make use of that? If you live in Turkey, why not make some films that really showcase not necessarily Turkish culture or nature if you don't want to, but just showcasing the world as it is, you know, that kind of thing. So why not have some fun with it and just see what you can do. See what you can do with the world that you actually have to hand. You have a good day, yeah? And just make something of your own circumstances, because your own circumstances are far more interesting than you have any possible expectation of, because it's alien to other people. I was talking to someone who's an American, right? And I was gonna say like, oh, dibs this, and then I didn't say it because I sort of thought, hang on, he might not know what dibs is. He probably does, but he might not know what that means. Maybe that's a British thing. He might have a similar thing where he was about to say something that's unique to his little area of America, you know? And we all have those parts that are our own cultural touchstones that we can get out there into the world that you might feel haven't been explored. Like, for instance, in my film, Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence, I'm showcasing the West London music scene, which I feel like I haven't really seen much of in film or TV or anything to do with that. I feel like it's, you can go past, yeah. It's something that I haven't really seen explored, and I'd like to see it explored, so I'm exploring it. The same way that you might live in, I don't know, Shanghai, and you want to see some Shanghai sort of stuff going on. You know, maybe you go down the little side streets and there's that particular cafe that you like. Why not just, if you go to that cafe, sit outside, just set your phone down, maybe record a video, and see where it takes you, see what happens from there. Or, you know, you see some of these members of this community, this folk filmmaking or this folky sort of indie community of nobodies, right? And you see what they kind of do with their little worlds, right? So, I mean, Joel Haver is way different than, say, the Don't Tell Show, who is way different from Doom Productions, who is way different from, like, some random guy in Russia who made a film, who's way different from some random guy in Japan who made a film. We're all unique in regard to who we are and our worlds around us. And if we can combine those two to create some interesting works of art, then we should. Because why not? Why shouldn't you? Why? Because you have something to say. Why shouldn't you say it? Who says that you can't say it? Right? That's it really, that's the video. Just get out there, make stuff, please do. And send it to me. I'll try and watch as much of it as I can when I have the time. And yeah, make the most of your circumstances. Like right now, this camera isn't on a tripod. There was a woman that was just putting some stuff in a bin, right? This is actually sat on a bin, and it's a bin that has like this kind of curve. So when she was putting stuff in the bin, I reckon the camera was sort of up and down shaking. Like, you don't need crazy equipment, you don't need crazy resources or anything like that. You don't necessarily need a Canon C100 Super 35mm fucking cine camera like I've got. Even though it's not an expensive camera, you don't need it. You can get something that's way, way cheaper. You can get something that you can just use your phone, you can just do everything from your phone, you can do everything from the little tiny bits of equipment and resources you already have, because you already have something like this. You've got your own version of this. Is there not a place in your little local area that you like seeing, that you think looks good, that you want to showcase? Or something like maybe a street that you walk down, and you walk down that street and you kind of go, oh, fucking hell, that would make a really cool shot. And then eventually you will get that shot and you think, bloody hell, it is just as good as I imagined. So yeah, get out there and do stuff, because you won't regret it. You really, really won't regret it. You won't regret showcasing your world, because your world is unique to you. Even though you might live in the same area as another creator, your world and their world are ever so slightly different, even though you live in the same place, because who you are is who you are, and who they are is who they are. You might go to the swimming pool, they might go to the skate park. You might go to the gym, they might go to the pub. And it's fine, no matter who you are and where you go and what you do and what your world is and who your community is and the people and the friends that you make along the way, because it's all you. Everything about this is just about embracing yourself and just getting out there and making stuff. Because if you want to make pieces of art or creative works, then who is there to stop you? So thank you very much for watching this video. Have a good rest of the day. If you're working on anything at the moment, please let me know. Let me know how you have used your area, your locations and your community to your advantage to create something interesting. And yeah, take care everybody. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye. So yeah, I'm gonna walk down that way. But then I'm gonna have to come back. So I'm gonna just because, like, look how cool that looks. I'm gonna kind of walk backwards actually so I can see the camera. I hope the fog isn't sort of fogging up the lens. Bye. Bye. I feel like I'm gonna fall. What a way to end the video that would be. But now I've said it, I'm not going to. Hey up everybody. My name's Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about advertising, and in particular how you can advertise yourself onto other people in an intelligent sort of way in order to gain people's interest, because the whole point of advertising is to get uninterested people to become interested people, and then for those interested people to then become buyers slash viewers slash audience, whatever it is that you want them to do. You want them to buy the specific product, or you want them to watch your film, or you want them to engage in your content, or whatever it might be, right? You want to turn uninterested people into interested people, and we'll call that a conversion rate, right? So let's say you just go for the widest possible net, you sling the widest possible net out, right? But if you have a wide net, you're going to have wide holes in your net, which means that more fish are going to actually get through. So in this regard, I'm talking about something like Facebook ads or Instagram ads and stuff like that. If you're just doing them for as wide an audience as possible because you don't know what your target demographic is, you're not going to get a very high conversion rate, right? And the reason for that is because, think about it like this. Whenever you see an advert for something, does it even enter your mind, or do you just scroll straight past it, or do you just click skip ad? Do you actually engage with the advert? Do you ever look at it and genuinely think, oh, there's a product I might buy, there's a thing I might watch, I might do that? Or do you think, at most, that looks like shit, whatever? Even if it doesn't really look like shit, even if the thing that person is trying to advertise is something that they put their heart and soul into, you know, over years and years and years. They built this business up from scratch, and they're really trying their hardest to actually get you interested, because they do have a genuinely good product. But it's about how you actually get that across to an audience. And certain things are going to be easier to advertise than others. Like I know someone who they paint tennis courts, right, in people's like houses for like rich people and stuff like that. Someone wants a tennis court, they hire this guy, they go, there's the bit of grass we want the tennis court on, paint it for us please. And they go, oh right, cheers, that'll be 500 quid, right? So that guy, he put out Facebook adverts. He bought some Facebook adverts and he really honed in on exactly the demographic he wanted. He thought about the age of people that play tennis, let's say 55-year-olds that want to play tennis, right? He thought about the kind of things that rich people are generally into, and then he thought about So, you know, tennis, golf, like various sports. He wants particular sort of people that would wear the polo shirt, that would go out to the golfing course and go, ooh, very, very good, sir. Yes, yes, I'm loving this. I don't know what they do, right? And I don't know exactly his business model, right? But he thought about exactly what his audience want, because he is part of his own audience. That guy likes tennis, and he knows what he would buy, he would click. Think about your advert that you're working on. Would you buy it? Would you engage with it? Or are you just trying to do this because you think your audience is stupider than you, right? There's that whole thing of like, treat the audience like they're stupid. Don't, no, the audience is incredibly intelligent. They're more intelligent than you think they are, way more intelligent than you think you are. And if you give them the benefit of the doubt and let them figure these things out for themselves, then they will be more interested as a result, because they won't feel like they're being taught down to, right? Audiences know, maybe they don't consciously know and are aware of various marketing strategies, but they do know a good advert when they see it, they know a good product when they see it, and they know good advertising when they see it, and they know if something is going to be of interest to them, right? I remember I used to have a friend who, they've moved away, and I used to hang out with them, and sometimes they would go on Instagram and I would see them like engage with adverts. They would swipe through the adverts, sometimes click on the thing. It would be like clothing companies and stuff like that. And I would never, ever, ever engage with an Instagram ad, right? Ever in my life. I'd see it says ad and I'd just swipe, right? But this person, they would actually engage with them. And that made me think, okay, well, maybe I'm more unique in this regard. And obviously I'm not unique, but like, I'm more like the underclass, the not the norm, right? Compared to people who do just swipe and have a look at it and don't just immediately see ad and just go, bomb, not interested, right? So you're looking through these Instagram ads, right? You want to make it as easy as possible for your audience to be interested in your product, right? You want to make it easy for them. The same way, if you're applying for a job, you want to make it easy for your boss to hire you. So let's try and think about it like trying to get a job. If you get a job, right, then that's the equivalent of selling a product, okay? So first off, you need to write your CV, and that will be your advert, okay? Because, I mean, a CV is literally, resume for Americans, is literally just an advertisement for yourself, okay? So on this CV, you might have like your previous experience, you might have a personal bio that kind of tells you a little bit about yourself, right? These things would translate into an advert as like, here's the story of the company. Try and make it an interesting story, something that someone could latch onto. It doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't need to be like, you know, I grew up in Mozambique and I managed to move over to LA and from here I started my own business. It doesn't need to be anything like that level of complicated. It can literally just be, I really like TV, so I made a TV show. Here's the TV show. It was a lot of hard work, but we managed to do it. Here's a fun story about the filming. Or say you want to sell, I don't know, bottled water. You go like, I used to go to the gym and I used to buy a lot of bottled water. But you know what I realized is that I'm spending way too much money on bottled water because I'm buying one at a time. What if I could get bottled water on a subscription service? Right, well, that got me thinking, I would use a bottle of water every 2 days. So I need a bottle of water delivered every 2 days, but it's not efficient to deliver just one bottle of water at a time. So let's get 7 bottles of water, one for every 2 days. So that's 1 bottle of water every 2 weeks. So you get 7 bottles of water delivered every 2 weeks. And maybe you can change the frequency and the number of bottles and you know, if you want flavors and stuff like that, you could do all those sort of things. And right away, that's more interesting than just advertising bottled water. Here's some bottled water. Do you want it? No, I don't. I can go down the shop and get a bottle of Evian, right? So you think about how it's easy to make your audience interested in what you want. And the more interested you can get your audience by appealing to specific things that they are interested in, the higher your conversion rate will be from potential buyers to buyers, okay? So you want to advertise to your audience, think about who your audience are first. What are their interests? Why do they like stuff? Are they the kind of audience that would go for like flashy, big, bright colors and loud stuff? Say if you're trying to advertise like, I don't know, like what's the Alex Jones thing? You know, all them like power bars and stuff like that. Well, people who like Alex Jones, for instance, and all those various like podcasts and stuff like that, they like big, loud personalities, big, bright, contrasty colors, intense, manly lightning bolts and dark blues and stuff like that. They don't want like dainty, like nice turquoises and cyans and stuff like that. If you were maybe doing something with an audience of, I don't know, people that are really into knitting, right? that's probably going to be a very different audience, and you would target that demographic in a very different way compared to the power bars, right? So if you're trying to do for this like knitting company, right, you might want a lot more pastel colors. You might want a lot more like nice and plain, ornate kind of things. You might want a nicer, fancier serif font. Maybe you want some joined up writing for a logo. Maybe you want some like, maybe you want to engage in more pinks and like light blues and stuff like that, because you're going to have more of a female audience compared to the power bars where it was all about big manly stuff, you know? So think about who your audience are, what do they like, why are they interested in it? Do market research. And market research can be as simple as just going through Instagram and seeing your competition, going in the comment section and seeing what they're interested in. Click on their profiles on various comments, just random comments, right? That might say like, oh, I'm interested in buying this. Click on their profile and see what they're interested in. What are they posting pictures of? Are they taking selfies in Ibiza? Are they like taking pictures of them like that at the gym? Are they doing stuff like that? And if you've got the one for knitting, you're probably not going to have commenters that post that kind of stuff. Maybe they'll have like a nice little picture of like, I don't know, the nice ornate tea that they got from this fancy place down in central London, or maybe they'll like take a picture at the beach in I don't know, Venice or something like that. You know, I'm just spitballing general ideas here, because knitting and power bars, probably two opposite ends of the spectrum, and it's not going to be as black and white as that. I'm using these as simple ideas just to get you into the groove of what you can do with your audience, because what your potential audience will be unique to you, and you want to try and find a niche for yourself within that audience, within the general zeitgeist of all of humanity, the general populace, right? You want to take as small a section of the 8 billion of us as possible, as small a percentage as you can. We're talking like 0.000000001% of people that would be die-hard interested in you, because that 0.00001% of 8 billion will still equal something like 50,000. And if you can get all 50,000, or even like say 30%, that's 30% conversion rate, because you've niched down so hard, say you can get even a 10% conversion rate at 50,000, that's 5,000, right? When 5,000 people buy your product that you make maybe $10 profit on, that's $50,000 profit straight away right there. And if you can get that per year, then you're on 50 grand a year. That's just a general basic idea. And I'm not like, I did business GCSE, so I'm not like someone who knows exactly what they're talking about, but I think it's good to have someone that doesn't know what they're talking about try and explain the process, because if I'm wrong, you know that I'm wrong. And you know what I'm saying doesn't sound completely right, so you might do it differently from how I do it, right? And that's kind of the key of all these sort of videos, is I want to get across the fact that I don't know what I'm doing, but I want to try and grapple with an idea. And I think the grapple is the tension. That's the conflict of the video. And that's the progress of the video, almost like a 3-act structure, trying to figure out the idea, right? And I think if you're trying to advertise to your audience, all you can do is try and learn about them. Try and ask them questions, like try and get to know people that want the kind of thing that you want. You know, maybe do little surveys, try and build some kind of platform using the internet, because you can use the internet in so many different ways to just try and build some kind of platform. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's YouTube, there's Snapchat, there's Instagram, there's TikTok, there's Flickr, Bandcamp if you want to do music. There'll be specific forums and specific websites dedicated to specific things that you want for your niche, for your product, for your general marketplace of ideas. There's so many marketplaces of ideas, and you can just find the right marketplace for you. Like, you wouldn't try and sell PS2 games at a sewing convention, and you wouldn't try and sell knitwear to a load of hardcore gamers, okay? So just think about who your audience is, what do they want, why might they want it, and how can you fill a little void in their life. So I think that's going to be it from me. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you managed to get something out of it. Hope it was useful to you. And if you're working on a product at the moment, feel free to pitch it. Pitch the idea, right? Figure out what your audience is. Tell me what your audience would be, what you consider your demographic to be, and get really specific with it. Don't just be like, oh, 16 to 35-year-old men that live in America. That's fucking every like young bloke that lives in America. You think every young bloke's interested in your product? No. Think about like maybe 15 to 35-year-old blokes in America that like shonen anime. That's a bit more specific. Maybe now let's get to, maybe they'll only like older shonen anime, like ones from the 90s and the early 2000s. They don't like the new stuff. Bam, straight away there, you've got a little bit of a niche, right? And I've just come up with that at the top of my head, right? And I'm not planning on making a product to sell to 15 to 35-year-olds in America that like shonen anime from the 90s and early 2000s. But you might be working on something like that. Maybe you make like Bleach fan art or something like that. I don't know. But if you're working on something like that, or just anything in general, please let me know in the comments what it is that you're working on, how you plan to get your product or service to a market, and what your steps are. And let's come together and figure out a business acumen. So thank you very much for watching this video, everybody. Have a good rest of the day. Take care, and bye-bye. Hey up everybody, my name is Joshua Morrison, director of Jonny Mozza's Lessons in Confidence. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about journaling. So you might have had a diary or something when you were a teenager, stuff like that, and you might have read back on it later on in your life and gone, oh wow, I don't remember that. Oh, that little bit there was a bit interesting. Oh yeah, I was into that sort of thing at the time, wasn't I? And you read it, right? And it just brings back all sorts of little memories, right? And so I read back my old teenage diary ages ago, like probably about 7 years ago, right? And I thought to myself, oh wow, I should start doing this again. And so what I did is I just started, every day I would just type into a Word document. I didn't bother with like actually journaling on paper and books and stuff because, I don't know, I just found it so much easier to just type, just like almost non-consciously, just and I wouldn't even think, right? I would just type what worked, and sometimes I would just go onto these random nonsensical tangents just because I was just typing pure improv. And like, if I was making something that didn't really make any sense, if I was saying something that didn't make any sense, I'd just keep going, and then I go, this doesn't really make any sense, this bit's sort of a bit nonsense. But I would try and explain what happened in the day, what I was feeling and all that kind of stuff, right? And I did that for about 5 years. And I collated it all into one big Word document. And I found out I'd written somewhere in the realm of about 450,000 words, which for reference is slightly longer than all of Lord of the Rings. So I've got a lot of that to read through at some point in my later life. So middle-aged me is going to be quite happy reading through that. A lot of it's moaning. A lot of it's just general complaining about stuff. And then last year, what I started doing is I took all the old phone recordings that I had because, you know, I'm going out to meet friends and stuff, and I used to just like recording people and just like recording our little hangouts and stuff like that, right? And so what I would do is I went and found all the old clips and I just compiled them into these long 2-3 hour sort of vlogs, as I sort of called them. I never uploaded them to YouTube or anything like that. They just sit on a hard drive, right? And so I made probably about 8 of those, and that came up to about 10 hours, and that was all of the past footage from like 2016 up till about 2023-ish when I started doing that. And it was really sort of quite satisfying just to find all the old things. Like I went onto Facebook and I found all the videos that other people had posted of us on Facebook, just like, you know, hanging out and stuff like that. And I would screen record those Facebook videos and put them into the archive as well. I've got basically everything. I've got all my old YouTube videos, all my friends' old YouTube videos. I've got everything for future sort of me, because in the future, I know what's gonna happen. I'm gonna be like 50 or 60 years old, right? And I'll be getting nostalgic for me now, or, you know, this sort of 2010, 2020 sort of era, when this feels like it's the simple times, you know, and 2050 or 2060 will be the complicated times. You know how now people sort of think of now as being the complicated times, and like the 70s or the 60s or the 80s as being the simple times. I mean, that's just going to shift, because in the 60s and the 70s, they probably thought that the 30s were the simple times, and now they're living in a weird, complicated era where it was rock and roll and all this sort of stuff. So, you know, the times are always changing, and I thought, well, it'd be good to get some kind of accurate depiction of what today was like. So this present age, right? So I started just continuing to make more little archive footage for myself. So if I was walking around, I would just record myself just rambling about whatever was going on, like who am I going to meet, what am I doing, all that kind of stuff. Am I going, you know, if I'm walking to the library, I'd say I'm walking to the library to do X, Y, and Z to print something out. Going to Lidl, and then I did like a few just like taking the camera and just like walking around Lidl, so that you get an idea of what a Lidl looks like in the year 2020 whatever, 2 or something like that. And that was just quite useful for, you know, the future archive purposes, because I've gone back at some of those 2017 recordings and just, there's stuff that I didn't remember, you know, just little interactions, or like someone will appear in a video that I've just completely forgotten about. I forgot they even existed, and I was like, oh shit, yeah, that person was all right. Yeah, I've completely forgot they ever existed, and seeing them in a video brings back little extra memories, right? So it's just nice to put these bits down on some kind of, you know, actualized kind of piece of media, let's say, just so that I can watch it back or read it back and just know what things were like now, because like I'm not going to be able to know exactly what it was like in the year 2025, in the year 2065, you know, just off the top of my memory, because my memory of events will change and my recollection will no longer be accurate 50 years down the line, the same way that I can't accurately tell you about sometime in like 2010, because that was 15 years ago, you know, and it was totally different time and I was a totally different person, and in the year 2050 I'll be a totally different person from me today. And it's just interesting to see what, you know, was going on in the past, you know. Like I remember I saw one that was just us hanging out in some friend's house, and I was trying to figure out whose house it was, and then I eventually figured it out, and I was like, oh fucking hell, I haven't seen that guy in like 10 years. I wonder what happened to him. And I you know, maybe there's another piece of this archive footage where we say in a conversation maybe what happened to him. I don't know, because at this point I genuinely have about 100 hours worth of this stuff to sift through. So when I'm like 50 or 60 and I'm feeling a bit nostalgic for now, I can just go back and I can scan through, I can pick and choose what I'm interested in. Do I want a bit of 2015? Do I want a bit of 2020? Do I want a bit of 2025? You know, that kind of thing. And I can see all the little state increments of my development from, I guess, childhood to adulthood. Because it's you know, it's not like you just wake up one day and it's like, oh, I'm an adult now. It's a slow sort of gradual process of maturity. And seeing it actually play out in video form is quite interesting. And at some point when I have a lot of free time on my hands, which isn't going to be anytime soon, what I want to do is I want to take all of these, like this 100 hours worth of footage, which is just in the form of these videos now. I've deleted all the individual files and I've just put it on these big, like 3-hour long compilation vlog type things, right? I want to take all that footage and then just edit it down into one like 90-minute semi-movie. Maybe I'll release it, maybe I won't, probably won't. If I did, everyone that's involved probably needs to be dead. Maybe I'd schedule it to go out like in the year 2150 or something like that, you know, so that no one that's alive today would ever see it. I don't know. But I just thought it was interesting because I was remembering little things that I'd totally forgotten about, and just remembering people that I'd forgotten about and events that I'd forgotten about. Like when I went all around like East London, I had a 6-month phase of just going around East London and just hanging out there with various people. And I was like, oh fuck, I forgot about that. And I forgot about that guy as well. And he had like that girlfriend and she was all right. And like, you know, and then they had those friends down at that random pub that we went to twice in like 2018 or whatever. And I completely forgot about all of that. And it's kind of interesting how, you know, you forget about certain things because you rewrite your own past to fit what your present is a little bit, don't you? And because you're trying to write your present for the benefit of your future. And you're kind of rewriting your past for the benefit of your present. And it's just nice to have what could be as closely depicted as an accurate representation of this present day. And I say present day kind of loosely because it's the last 10 years pretty much. But, you know, the general present rather than like a long, long, long time ago or a long, long time in the future. It's nice to just get that down. And what I would say to you is just, you must have loads of footage. You must have loads of footage from like maybe school or maybe like after school or like just stuff on your phone where you've just got little videos and stuff or pictures. Like I like to just put the pictures at the end of these vlogs and then just put like one of my tracks, whatever my newest track is, my newest song, and just put that underneath just so, you know, you get an idea of what was going on, what was I making at that time, what was I doing at that time, who was I talking to. What was my temperament? What was my, you know, what was I into? Like, what kind of references am I making to various like films or bits of music and stuff like that? Am I like referencing completely different things to what I am now? Oh, almost certainly. And I just thought it was really sort of satisfying, and I've sat down and watched a couple, like not in full, I've kind of skipped through them and watched maybe a couple minutes here and a couple minutes there, and just seen what takes my fancy. And it's just quite satisfying. There's a lot of cringeworthy stuff on there, like a lot of, because like, you know, you're 17, 18, 19, you're drinking and stuff like that. And there's a lot of like dumb shit on there, which, you know, I wouldn't release any of these to the world, particularly because you know, I don't have the permission of the people who are in these videos, and I wouldn't do that. But I just, and I kind of like the idea that they're a private archive for just for me, and like, you know, maybe in 50 years, my grandkids, I could sort of, like, if I tell them some kind of story from nowadays, which to them would be like the past, and I would probably refer to it as the good old days, back when we all knew what was going on, didn't we? Unlike now in the 2070s when everything's all confusing, isn't it? You know, and it's just quite nice. And that's all this video is about, is just to say to you, like, take some of that footage that you've got, you must have some, and just like put it together in one big long compilation, and just that way you can get, like, you don't have to worry that you're going to lose all of this stuff at a certain point. Because, you know, you do with time, don't you? You can just keep this stuff on like a USB stick or an external hard drive or something, and just keep that there for decades. Maybe like, because the hard drives don't last forever, you might need to shift it onto another hard drive in like 10 years or something, but that's fine. You know, you only need to do that 3 times, and then bam, you're 30 years in the future. And like 30 years from now is like, I'm not gonna remember today with any kind of accuracy. So it's nice to have that objective depiction. I remember I read a journal entry of one of my mates, which was about us hanging out like 10 years ago. And we were like pointing at bits like, when the fuck did that happen? What was that? Do you remember that? No, I don't remember that. And it's like, and I started wondering, am I just making shit up in these journals, you know? Was that what I was doing? And no, I'm sure I wasn't, because I was quite dedicated to being accurate with exactly how I was feeling. And he's like, when I first started the journal, it was a way to sort of, you know, figure out, I guess, teenage angst and stuff like that. And then as that goes on, it starts to become more just a general, it kind of goes from the opposite of teenage angst to like just trying to motivate myself and trying to like force positivity on myself. And both approaches were kind of satisfying. It's nice to see like where the development of the writing style kind of goes. There's a long phase where I got really like Oscar Wilde-ish with my descriptions, and just like trying to overly flowery language and stuff like that. And that was kind of pretentious, and that was a little phase. And then there's a phase after that where I go completely the other direction. Everything's just like the most simple stuff, like I went to Lidl and I did this, and then I went to see this guy and we did this, and then I went home. You know, and that's kind of nice as well, because, you know, you don't need to have the most in-depth recollection. You don't need to do what I did, which was sometimes some of these single-day journal entries would be like 10,000 words long, going into like telling the entire day out like it's a part of a novel or something like that. You don't need to do that. You can if you want. It's fun, and it doesn't take vastly long. It took probably about 2 hours to write that 10,000 words, because it's not like you're writing a Stephen King novel or something. You're just typing out exactly what happened just like that, just almost subconsciously. You got like a podcast or whatever on in the background. I like to listen to Bolero when I'm writing stuff. I find Bolero gets me to write a lot faster. So I put that on and I just typed stuff. And it's quite nice. So, you know, even if you don't have any archive footage or like old videos and stuff like that, maybe just like start writing a bit of a journal. Maybe just start it, see how you feel about it, type down your thoughts, because it helps you to figure out what you're thinking in the present day, and to actually sort of understand your own mentality in this present moment, which can be very useful for, you know, yourself and your development, because no matter what your age is, you're always developing in some way. Even if you're not like physically developing, you're at least sort of trying to learn something, whether that be like some way of how the world works, or like trying to keep up with the modern day, or like trying to understand the human connection, the human experience, or whatever. You're just trying to figure out how to be the best version of yourself that you can be. And I think that journaling is a very good way of getting to that. And, you know, it's not like you write a journal and you suddenly become Buddha or something, but you just kind of, it's just nice, it's just fun. And I thought I'd make this video to tell you that it is fun and you should give it a go, really. So yeah, leave your comments in the description comments box, right, about your experience with journaling. Have you done it? Did you get any satisfaction out of it? Do you maybe think that a personal archive is a really good thing, or maybe you think it's a bad thing. Maybe you don't want to know what you were doing 30 years ago. Maybe you see that as like a horrible thing. And if so, I'd love to understand why, because I'm of the other mentality. I'm a big archivist. I love to archive stuff. Yeah, and almost a completionist in that regard, where I try and get everything down, get every single video and every single clip, and try and tell it all in the most clear-cut way possible. And yeah, that's pretty much the video. Hope you have a good rest of the day. It doesn't take long to do a bit of a journal entry. It can take you like 10 minutes. So there's no reason not to. Give it a try. If you don't like it, then stop. No one's forcing you. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, everybody. Have a good rest of the day. Take care, and bye-bye.